When I think of the word hood, I think of a person, a place, and perhaps even a thing. I'm Sir Creepsta, and welcome to Mineral County Ghost Stories from the Hood. So, sit back, relax, grab up some snacks, and be terrified by yet another ghost story from the Hood. Back in 1988, while living in Nashville, Tennessee, and working in the Environmental Services Department at Vanderbilt University Hospital, I experienced something that even to this day still frightens me to the core whenever I think about it. But before I go any further, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And also click on the little bell icon so that you can stay in the loop and be notified each and every time I drop a brand new video. Now, on to the story. After working at the hospital for about 2 months on the day shift during my initial training, I was transferred to third shift, or what is better known as the graveyard shift. The hours were terrible, 11 p.m. until 7 a.m., made for a long, drawn-out, and boring night during the week. But on the weekends, things usually were full of surprises. It was then that the amount of gunshot victims usually doubled or tripled, and time seemed to pass by much quicker after being called upon to clean up the bloody messes. My job at the time was pretty basic: empty out all the trash cans in the ER, labor and delivery, and ICU, as well as the pathology department, in addition to all of the offices located on the bottom level, or what myself and my co-workers always referred to as the dungeon. It would usually take me anywhere from 4.5 to 5 hours to complete my job. Then it was off to the basement, where I would take the loaded trash bins, finish up the offices in the basement, hook up the large trash bins to a motorized vehicle, and drive them down the long winding corridor to the outside dumpster, where I would empty them out to complete my nightly duties. Afterwards, I would light me up a Newport cigarette and take in the cool morning air, seeing that it was the beginning of summer, and wait for my shift to end. One night, around the middle of the summer, my beeper went off. It was my boss checking in on me to see how my night was going. It was a slow night, so I was able to finish up my trash duties quicker than usual, and I was taking a smoke break on the back loading dock / dumpster area. He asked if I could do him a favor and go and sweep him out and put a thorough coat of wax on the floor in the morgue. The person that usually did this job had a family emergency and was unable to make it to work that night. Out of all the floors in the large hospital, the basement was one that I hated to have to be in the most, especially during the late night and early morning hours, when it was absent of people and eerily creepy with its dim lit lights. Strange sounds would always be heard whenever I was down there taking out the trash, and I made it a personal mission to finish up my job down there as quickly as possible. After I'd agreed to knock out the job, I went into the storage closet, gathered up all the materials and supplies that I would need to do the job, and then off to the morgue I went. Upon arriving at the morgue, I realized I didn't have the keys to get inside it, so I hopped on the elevator and went up to my box to get them, and then back down to the morgue I went. When I opened the door up to the morgue, it immediately felt like it was at least 20 or 30 degrees cooler inside the large room than it was in the rest of the hospital, and goosebumps covered up my entire body. Once inside the morgue, I flipped on the light switch and noticed that it consisted of 2 rooms. The first one being a smaller room that had a doorway leading to a much larger one. In the small room, which was the first room I entered, I noticed a large table with 3 metal containers sitting on it. Then in the larger room, it was obvious at first sight that the 5 large tables in it had 5 cadavers on them covered in white sheets. The sight of the bodies didn't bother me at first. I knew that they were deceased and couldn't harm me in any kind of way. But curiosity got the best of me, and I just had to take a peek under one of the sheets, which happened to be the largest one, to see if I might know who the unlucky soul was. So I did. It was a large African-American male probably in his 40s or 50s, but I didn't recognize him, so I quickly pulled the sheet back over him and went about to grab my broom and start sweeping the room. But I thought I heard a faint scratching sound coming from within the room. Unable to pinpoint the source and location of where the sound had come from, I proceeded to go about sweeping the room when I heard the sound again. Only this time, it was a little louder and more pronounced than the first time. Up until then, I hadn't been scared nor afraid at all, but this time chills shot up and down my spine and the hair stood on my arm. But I shook it off and went about my business. Then the scratching sounds got even louder, and it was very clear to me where the sound was coming from, which was in the smaller room that I first entered. They had the large table and the 3 metal containers on top of it. And the sound was clearly coming from the middle container on the table. Scared out of my wits, I cautiously walked up to the container. Then the scratching sound suddenly stopped. Once again, curiosity got the best of me, and I just had to know what was in the container that could have possibly made the noise. So I walked up to the table, unlatched the side of the metal container, opened it. And to my heart, what lay inside was the body of a small child, probably around a year old. Frightened to death, I slammed the lid down, ran back into the large room, grabbed up my supplies, and fled the morgue. But as I went out the door, I heard what sounded like babies crying. I dropped the supplies on the floor, ran to the nearest elevator, went to the employee's dressing room, took off my scrubs, put on my regular clothes, and ran to the hospital, never returning back to work at Randall Hospital ever again. Months later, I was running into a friend of mine who had worked with, and before I could utter out a word to him about my terrifying experience there in the morgue, he told me that he no longer worked there due to a paranormal experience that he himself had in the basement of the hospital, solidifying to me that yes, indeed, the Redwood Hospital is without doubt haunted. That's all for tonight, folks. I truly hope you enjoyed tonight's story. Forgive me for my cold. I'm Sir Creepsta, and until next time, stay terrified.